Together we'll see who dies and survives, circled around a sacred fire, strumming along with our favorite lyre. Adventure called the quest awaits, your destiny's in the hands of the fates. But never fear, we're all friends here, we'll have your back when danger's near. Come with us through the pages as we unravel a tale for the ages into the Percy-Verse.
Hello and welcome to the Percy-Verse podcast. I'm Alisa.
And I'm Anna. Hold on to the bottom of that stinky, woolly piranha and don't let go, because today we're reading chapter 14, We Meet the Sheep of Doom. In this chapter, Annabeth and Percy go through the world's worst obstacle course, Grover and Clarice switch spots on the chopping block, and nobody returns.
Love that we finally get to the nobody of it all.
Finally! We've had so much nobody that we've been tracking throughout the book. And there's a lot of play with anyone and nobody and anybody kind of stuff in this one, so it's quite fun.
Oh yes. And so we kind of picking up pretty much just like maybe the teeniest of jumps, between this last chapter and this one, in the sense that the last one ended with like, okay, they've arrived and, at some point here they like docked, they have truly arrived at the island at the start of this chapter. And we're reminded once more that this isn't like some scary, craggy rock a la the Sirens type island, but it's beautiful and lush and gorgeous with green fields and tropical fruit trees and white beaches, and it's just like stunning and not scary.
Yeah. Which, Percy's just like, when you think Monster Island, you don't think of that. And Annabeth immediately breathes in and is just like, the fleece. Like, you could just feel it. Like, the energy seems very palpable in the air. They can't see it yet, but even so, they can see the effects and feel its energy as it's going through the island. And Percy even has a moment where he's like, this could heal anything. Like, this really could heal Talia's tree.
Yeah.
And then he's almost like, wait, but what about this? But this island is so pretty. Like, what will happen to this island?
This really made me think of when we were talking about when he's on Cersei's island and in their escape, they're like, Percy doesn't stop to think about the ramifications of the escape there.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that here, like, before they've even taken the fleece, he does have a moment of like, oh, what are the ramifications of like what we're about to do for this place here?
That's a good point. It's interesting to think about what makes that difference.
Yeah.
Though it's not lost on me that, like, he's not worried about the effect on a bunch of women.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's maybe, like, more so, because there's so much emphasis on the nature and how beautiful the nature is that I don't know if maybe it feels like more of a greater concern for, like, the land and the, like...
Yeah.
That maybe his empathy link with Grover. Like,
I was gonna say, he even has a moment where he's like, maybe I should be vegetarian, like
right?
Grover. So I do think he's connecting in with, whether it's the empathy link or the dreams with Grover or whatever it is. Like, I do think he's connecting in with Grover's like worldview here, and that's a big part of it. Annabeth explains that it's not like the island will, become something terrible when they take the fleece. Right. It'll just go back to whatever state it was in before. So there'll probably still be fields and trees and flowers and things like that, but they might not be quite so vibrant and lush and, that overwhelming feeling of nature, magic, beauty that they're getting right now.
Yeah. And then we get a moment of what to me kind of feels like Percy's like survivor's guilt around Tyson. And because he, in his feeling guilt about ruining the paradise, he's reminds himself that he doesn't have a choice. Camp Half-Blood is in trouble, and he says, and Tyson would still be with us if it wasn't for this quest, which to me feels like, I think that's a very common thing, like, to see in movies and TV shows, like characters they've gone on a journey to complete something, they've lost someone along the way, and it even adds to this feeling like, in order for this to have been worth it, I have to see it all the way through because I lost someone. And now, like, none of this will have been worth it if I don't succeed. Feels kind of like the mindset that now Percy is in here. I
wrote, for Tyson. Like, I think that, like, it's almost like I now want everything to be just like, for Tyson, like whenever we do something, because I feel like that's like the energy. For Tyson, I need to make breakfast. For Tyson. I don't want to do my dishes. I'll do them. For Tyson. That's like my new slogan. But yes, I agree. I think survivor's guilt is the exact perfect term here, and I also think it's tricky. Like, as I was saying that, I was like, I think it's both tricky to the way we might interpret what someone like would want us to do is tricky and often very like colored by our own opinions and beliefs and values. And also I think it's tricky to use that kind of reasoning if it results in moving forward in a rigid way and not being like flexible and adaptable with where you're going. And I agree. I think in both fiction and sometimes in the real world, it's a common thing that can happen, you know, because you do, with grief and loss, like, we want to make meaning out of it so desperately. And I think that this can be a way that people make meaning sometimes. Is like, I will do this, like, also in your honor, you know, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but like, I think it's a good thing to have self-awareness that that's what's happening when you can. So that you're making sure that you're also aligned with like your values, your community's values, like what's important to you, what, you know, that it's taking into account like a variety of factors, and that you're feeling like you have like your own autonomy and stuff inside of that. So it really made me like go on a whole philosophical like tangent in my brain when I was reading that.
Well, it makes me it immediately made me think of like the difference between like honoring in like a remembrance sort of way and honoring in a like debilitating, you're no longer actually living your own life and, to your point, your own values kind of way. And if anyone listening has watched the show Paradise, you haven't yet, although that's the one I'm going to try to convince you to watch at some point. There is one of the main characters on that show loses someone, and I think then falls into that like honoring to the detriment of like kind of everyone and everything, like making choices not based from like a real grounded, values aligned type place.
I guess my musical Ashes to Ashes, the main antagonist in that musical is sort of doing a similar thing too.
Exactly.
To honor his late wife. So that's kind of interesting. But like in his case, and I think in a lot of cases, what I'm kind of speaking to is like in my story in particular, it's almost like that's the initial impetus, but it's also covering his own fears. And so I think too, it's like making sure just that like you're processing your own stuff too, right? That like you're not using this as a way to not confront or process your own feelings or fears. Through sort of martyrizing someone else in a way, right? Or taking actions like in their name without them being present to validate that.
Right. Or oftentimes what can be a reaction to losing someone is like then clinging way too tightly from a fearful place to everyone who you love who is left, and like constricting like
which
those
is also
people
what he's
because
doing.
you're so fearful. That's what I was thinking of. You're so fearful of losing them that you're like, I cannot allow you beyond like 5 feet like away from me at all times.
But I'm also not going to even like say that that's what's happening. I'm just going to do it in kind of a controlling way. Y'all come here for the grief content, right?
It's the chess content and the grief content.
It is. I'm so glad that we're just on target with that. But, you know, this book has a way of, like, one little line just contains a whole world of, like, philosophy and morality and, you know, discussion that is so rich, which I do love. And I also think that in a book where Percy has been through such a journey of oftentimes, honestly, just, like, making mistakes, I think it's interesting that as he's coming to this, like, final place of, we assume, kind of like a final battle scenario place, right? The place that the quest is supposed to take, you know, that it's supposed to happen on.
Yeah.
That he's entering it with, like, a guilty conscience, I just think is a really interesting position for a character to be in. And I do think in a way, this is just coming to me, I'm going to say this and we'll see if it's true. In a way, just as Grover and Clarice switch places in this chapter, I actually think that Clarice and Percy switch places in this chapter. I think Percy becomes the main character in this moment. I think this chapter, where Clarice has been captured and Percy and Annabeth are coming in with a plan, I feel like I'm really reading the main character of this quest in Percy for the first time.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. And last thing on this incredibly impactful sentence is a grammatical question that I had of to wasn't or to weren't.
Ooh.
In terms of Tyson would still be with us if it, because it says if it wasn't for this quest.
Yeah.
But was versus were, like if it weren't for this quest.
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not a super grammar buff.
Because
tell us in the comments if you know.
Past participle. It's the speculative. Like, I always thought when it's that speculative, it needs to be were versus has occurred. It's was.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, the quest has occurred though. That's why I'm wondering if it is a was. Like the speculation is on Tyson being alive, but the was is in reference to a thing that has already happened.
Maybe.
I have no idea if that's true.
Any grammar nerds, please let me know, because
we're not the grammar people.
No. The only place I learned grammar was in my Spanish classes.
Which is
I don't
so
feel like
helpful
I
when
ever
it comes
actually
to
learned English grammar in school.
Yeah, I feel that.
So, we then get kind of a better sense of the sheep that are milling around on this island, and they are peaceful and they are massive. And I had my cruise ship part 2 moment where like I really stopped and had to be like, sheep the size of hippos.
Same.
Like, I had to make myself go reread it because I literally caught my brain move past it way too quickly, register it but not imagine it, and I had to be like, no, roll that back. Imagine a sheep, now make it the size of a hippo. That's wild.
Same. I don't think I fully appreciated this sentence before.
Yeah.
Hippos are very large.
They're so large.
Like, they're like dangerously large in terms of they can like hurt you.
Yeah.
The scale of this was lost on me before. Also, for anyone who is listening, not watching, I am wearing my most woolly type jacket in honor of the sheep today. So
though no sheep were harmed in the making of
no sheep were harmed in the making of this non-sheep wool jacket, but it was kind of the vibes. But yeah, the size of hippos was not something I had processed before. No. And then question I had, because this is like a beautiful sunny day, right? As far as we're aware.
Right, yes.
Why not shiny? They were shiny previously in a vision in the dream. They were copper and silver and various hues of shiny, and they're just not being described as shiny here, but the gold is. For the
this was my
fleece.
question, and this might be just my brain forgetting if we got, because there are 2 different types of sheep. There are the piranha sheep, and then the non-piranha sheep that Percy's able to hide.
That was my question too. Are they hiding under non-piranha sheep? They have to be, right? Okay,
Yes.
okay. So maybe the non-piranha sheep are glittering and the piranha sheep are huge, but not glittering?
Well, but that's just what I wasn't sure, because also the non-piranha sheep have to be big enough that they can hide, like, yeah,
Yeah.
at 12, 13, you're not maybe your full height, but you're still...
I have to admit, I'm picturing the movie Babe right now. And some of the, I know it's a really old reference, but that's like the main sheep I can picture in my head.
Yeah.
And some of those sheep are pretty big, especially when they were woolly, like for a 12.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna, I hope people aren't groaning at home, but I'm gonna remind us that Annabeth is in fact like 6'2".
No, 5'9".
5'9",
6
sorry.
feet was
Oh, right, they're stretched to 6 feet. Is in fact 5'9". So I think that is going to create a complication for hiding under these regular sized sheep.
I just wasn't totally clear as to whether or not all the sheep, regular and piranha, were the size of hippos, or if there was a size distinction between the piranha sheep and the regular sheep.
Right, because only the piranha sheep are being described here. These hippo-sized sheep, because then we're going to see what they do next.
And maybe when we meet, we'll remember.
Let's walk it through, and we'll walk through what side of the swinging bridge they're on, and we'll trace it together.
But that is a good reminder about like the copper gold descriptions.
I was just like, which sheep are shiny? Yes. I was very intrigued by that when it was introduced earlier, and so I wanted to know where they are.
So Percy and Annabeth are kind of taking this all in, and Percy's like, that's too easy. Like, you can just hike up. What's going on here? And
Annabeth, they can see the fleece. I don't know if we said that, but like, they can see the golden fleece up in the trees.
Yes, in a massive oak tree. That's at the edge of the canyon, or near the edge of the canyon. And Annabeth says there's supposed to be a guardian, which I did do my little Wikipedia searching to find that, yes, in Greek mythology, the fleece is always guarded by some sort of guardian creature, either, did I save it? It was like either a dragon, or another creature, and
that's so funny because Annabeth literally says a dragon or ... You are Annabeth right now.
I am Annabeth, and I don't want to spend too much time trying to find it because I didn't save it. So yes, that tracks. And then the other thing that I googled in the next sentence was a deer emerging from the bushes, and I went, we're in the Caribbean. Are there natively occurring deer in the Caribbean?
Are there?
And fun fact, on a few islands in the Caribbean, there are native deer species. Not to all islands, so like Puerto Rico, for example, any deer you see in Puerto Rico, they're not native to Puerto Rico.
Right.
But other islands in the Caribbean do have some of their own native deer species. Well, because my brain went, hang on a minute. I've been to Cuba. I didn't see a deer when I was in Cuba.
True facts.
How is there a deer? Is that possible? And not in like a, I want to knock Rick Riordan if it somehow wasn't possible.
But you're curious if it's like anachronistic. Yeah.
Yes. And there is, and so it's like, okay, then, this must be one of in the Sea of Monsters. They maybe have a couple of deer there as well. Because there are. Deer. So anyways, and this is where we discover that these sheep are piranha sheep, because this poor little deer emerges from the bushes.
Like Bambi all over again.
It's Bambi part 2.
Part 2. Cannibal sheep.
Yeah, and is just swarmed by the sheep. Everything happens, it feels like in seconds. Yeah. Almost, with how quick it is. And it's because it literally says a second later, the sheep all move away, and where the deer had been was a clean pile of white bones. And that's when Annabeth is like, okay, so they're piranhas.
I'm a piranha.
I'm a piranha. And then in this moment is also where Annabeth sees that down the beach, just below the sheep meadow, is the other lifeboat from the CSS Birmingham.
Yep. So in this moment, I thought it was interesting. Like, they had been on one of these lifeboats too. So because I was like, that is also wild to be able to identify so easily. But they've been on one of these too. That's how they get out of the big explosion.
Well, and particularly Annabeth. That was how Annabeth.
Yes.
Annabeth got on the. Percy was up in the air, but.
Oh, he was. Yes, yes. He magically ends up where she can get him onto the lifeboat, but he's up in the air. So they basically are like, cannot get past scary piranha sheep. That is not going to work. And Annabeth wants to try to use her invisibility cap, but Percy is pretty sure that the sheep will still like smell her and eat her, which is like a pretty solid guess, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
Or that like there would be a dragon who's hiding right now, or just something, which I think is, you know, props to Percy on, we've been talking about like them doing things even though they know that maybe it's perilous anyway, you know, and here he's like, let's not do what we always do. So that's cool.
And I think it also shows the learning, again, like we've been talking about, that we've been seeing in this second book of like, there's a lot more knowledge, because I think, you know, Lightning Thief Percy, especially earlier on, might have just been like, let's go. Like, it's just some sheep, you know? Yeah. Or like, oh yeah, go invisible. Like, no worries, you got this. But I think we're seeing that learning of, like, that they can't trust that something looks fine. They always have to be on guard for that.
Yes.
Like, what's the secret thing that's hiding that's going to harm us that we can't see right now?
Given how Percy charged into situations, even at the beginning of this book with the bronze bulls and things like that, the fact that they even just like waited long enough, seeing the sheep were so big that they saw them eat the deer is different from how he might have proceeded in other situations. But he is interestingly saying that their first job is to find Grover. So I think that in his mind, tell me if you think differently, because obviously the ultimate quest is for the fleece and the tree, right? And Kim. Yeah. In his mind, he's kind of weighing the timetable of their deadline, or like Grover's deadline. If he's like sorting out his order of priorities, he's like, the thing that has a time clock on it first, and then the thing that doesn't have a time clock on it second. Is that, do you think that's what he's doing?
I can totally see that. I also kind of saw it almost as like, I've already lost Tyson. Like, I'm not messing around with potentially losing Grover. Like because I do think the logic is like, the fleece isn't going any, like there's like, to your point, if there's not a time clock, it's like the fleece can't grow legs and walk off and you know, leave and just disappear. And there's this wedding, but it also to me it also felt like this element of like his priority being Grover because he doesn't feel like he can lose anyone else.
Totally. I just thought it was interesting that the wording is, besides, our first job was to find Grover and whoever had come ashore in that lifeboat, because he's sort of speaking for Annabeth there too in his mind. So I kind of thought it was interesting. Like, we haven't heard them talk through it, right? To know that they both think that is true. So it's kind of interesting, that wording, but he is too nervous to say when he's saying to find whoever came in that lifeboat that he's finally having a sense of tiny little piece of hope for the first time that Tyson might be alive and might have come on that lifeboat. But he's which is a relatable emotion. Like, he's scared to voice something that he'd so desperately wants, but would be so further crushed if it weren't true. It's relatable.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially because like he at this point doesn't really have any evidence that Tyson survived. And this is only
someone did.
And this is the first piece of just a lifeboat with potentially some one or more beings, you know, like made it out. And so
so they are then kind of going through a different option for how to get onto the island. They're mooring the Queen Anne's Revenge on the back side where the cliffs are rising straight up 200 feet. Just let's pay attention to that, because I think he's 100 feet in the air when he falls from the bomb.
This
is twice that.
Good reminder. Thank you.
For reference,
Yes.
Kind of scary. And they're thinking that the ship might be less seen back there. And they're thinking that the cliffs, the 200 feet tall cliffs, is what I'm kind of trying to point out here, might be climbable. Barely. That's what he says. I'm like, yeah. That's a lot. But they're thinking that at least they won't be by the killer sheep. And I like this note where he's like also hoping that Polyphemus doesn't keep killer, carnivorous mountain goats, which I think is funny. So they parked they parked the ship.
They parked the ship
on the water.
They reversed in.
But they take a lifeboat to get to the cliffs, which makes sense because you can't usually get quite up close with your ship.
No.
And they climb, again, 200 feet of straight up cliffs.
Yeah.
Annabeth going first because she's the strongest climber. And
Shout
again,
out.
I'm just saying, this whole book is such a testament to, like, Annabeth being a badass. Like, so incredible at everything.
Yes. And the one thing that I did want to, like, particularly point out about that line of saying, like, she was the way better climber.
Way better.
Like, just, I always think about, like, while these books are for all ages, right? Oftentimes, like, the first audience is, like, those middle grade readers, and just the importance of, like, reading a book where, like, a boy is the lead and he's able to be like, Annabeth the girl was a way better climber, like, way better at doing something physically challenging than I was. Like, that's good. I'm here for that.
I agree.
More of that.
It, like, immediately brings to mind the Super Carlin Brothers podcast through the Gryffindor was the initial inspiration for this podcast. And it wasn't until they pointed it out when I was listening to them read some of the earlier books that, like, Hermione is always described as, like, panting when she's running or the last up the hill. And I hadn't, like, processed that before, but I'm sure it saddened me when I was reading them growing up. But I do think there's something really great about it's not even like it's a big deal or Percy's surprised by it or anything like that. It's just a fact that Annabeth is a better climber, and, like, if nothing else, she's had more experience going up the lava rock wall and training at camp. But she also is just, like, kind of awesome, like I was saying earlier. Like, but, you know, a lot of the time too, we were talking about this in Cersei's Island, you know, like, if you're pretty, you can't be smart, and if you're smart, you can't wear makeup and whatever. It's also often, if you're brainy, you can't also be athletic.
Yes.
So I do like that, regardless of gender identity, the idea of that someone can be both brainy and athletic is very cool.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
So they only came close to dying 6 or 7 times.
Not bad.
Which I agree with Percy, that's pretty good, given the 200 feet. I just can't get over that height.
And they're just free climbing, no ropes, no nothing.
Nope. Well, it's easier than Camp Alisa because there's no lava coming down.
But of course, I'm so sorry.
So it's like a walk in the park. Yeah. So, you know, they describe some perilous moments of, like, Percy slips or Annabeth slips, and then Percy gets her foot in his face, and that's nice and fun. And Percy does say that his fingers feel like molten lead and his arm muscles are shaking from exhaustion. And I'm like, they would have to be. That is so many feet. I'm curious. I'd be curious to look up, like, what's the highest number of feet that someone has free climbed like this?
Oh, yeah.
You know,
well, because there's some people out there.
They're doing this stuff. No, I know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was the live on Netflix, the, like, live taping of this guy who, like, free climbed the tallest skyscraper in the world, and they, like, aired it live on Netflix, and that was wild. So there are people out there who are, like, really pushing the limits of, like,
I just want to know what that like, maybe y'all will tell us in the comments that 200 feet isn't that crazy, but in my mind it just sounds like so many feet to be free climbing at any age. And I don't know. I know they're demigods, but wow. So they're hauling over the top of the cliff and collapsing, exhausted. And we immediately hear, like, a gar, which is not what you want to hear when you're so tired after climbing up so much. Annabeth is on it always and puts her hand over Percy's mouth to be quiet and points. And what they see over on the opposite side is a scene that isn't very encouraging,
no,
shall we say.
And so they see that Polyphemus has essentially captured Clarice. So they're at the edge, they're right above the entrance to his cave, and below them is Polyphemus, Grover in the wedding dress, and Clarice is tied up, hanging upside down over a pot of boiling water, which is like Talia and Luke. And like, I guess a Cyclops loves a boiled
That's just what they do.
dinner, which I'm just like, boiled meat is not the best way to have meat.
Yeah. Even Grover later is like, I think you should grill me.
Right.
Actually.
Yeah. I feel like that'd be tastier.
Yeah.
And Percy is half hoping to see Tyson down there too. Yeah. He, like, even though Tyson would be in danger, he just, like, wants him to be alive so badly that he'd rather see them there than not be there. But there is no sign of Tyson.
No.
And then we get this conversation that this happens so much in media, books, movies, TV shows, what have you, where there's a character who just doesn't pick up on the vibe that they need to follow in a stressful situation.
Yep.
And they kind of make everything worse. And like, Clarice, I want to defend you here, girl, but I know you're smart. And I know that you have the ability to know the play that's happening here. Because basically what happens is Polyphemus is asking Grover, like, should we eat Clarice now or after the wedding? Like, what does my bride think? And Clarice is like, bride? Grover? And then just fully, like, says...
outs Grover as a satyr?
Yes, which I'm just like... Clarice, can you not tell that the play here is that Grover is surviving by pretending to not be a satyr, and that Polyphemus would also be tying Grover up, and that Grover does not want to be here, and, like, play along. Just...
It is...
I know Clarice,
don't
you're
understand
smart.
it. Yeah, it cannot possibly be that Clarice doesn't understand. I don't see a world where that's true. I don't know if, like, I can go in the direction of she thinks she'll have a better chance of, like, distracting from her getting eaten if she throws the attention onto Grover, and that's a strategy. Yeah. Even if it's a callous strategy, I can get behind that. I can get a little bit behind, like, being so disoriented at showing up to an island and whatever happened so quickly that then she's strung up above a pot of boiling water. I personally have never been strung up above a pot of boiling water. I hope never to be. Yeah. But I could imagine not being in my right state of mind if I were strung up. Well,
and we don't know what she's been through post-explosion
and through the Sea of Monsters. Exactly. So I can get behind an explanation that's like, Clarice's just, like, not thinking right now. Like, she's not in the thinking part of her brain. And so it just doesn't register when she's like, Grover, what are you talking about? He's a satyr. Yeah. You know, like, maybe. But it is frustrating to read. Yes. I will say. Yeah.
And this type of scene is always just so deeply frustrating to me when it's... And it always happens in this type of way of, like, someone revealing something when I'm like, it is so obvious that you should not. Yeah. It is so obvious that you should just simply stop talking.
Yeah.
And Clarice, like, doubles, triples down. Like, she
truly
says
does.
Multiple times that Grover's a satyr. Because Polyphemus is, like, not kind of fully understanding it. But eventually he is like, realizes it. And I really dislike the reveal choice here. Same. That Polyphemus rips off Grover's wedding veil and then does he also do his and also his dress and tears it away like that. I that felt bad. it
I
felt
agree.
bad in me reading that.
In general, Polyphemus to me in this chapter is a stand-in for like forms of violence. Like many, many forms of violence. There is verbal violence, there is physical violence, there is I would say between that and like then Clarice, kind of like a sexual violence. Like
Totally.
there's a lot of ways in which Polyphemus is kind of enacting and representing different forms of violence that we do encounter in the world.
Yes.
And he, to me, is kind of a stand-in for like all of them at once, which I think is why it does feel very disconcerting and overwhelming to read. And I sort of stand unsure about how I feel having these scenes in this book, like whether it's sort of a bit, you know, triggering or like, is it necessary to have it? And at the same time, I do think that like sometimes it's important to name that these things happen, like to name that we do exist in situations of violence and that kids can exist in situations of violence too.
Right.
And that, as we talked about with Gabe before as well, that like people might feel seen in some way. So I might have more of an opinion as we move through the events on the island in the next like couple chapters, like how it ends up, whether I end up you know,
like
feeling
in totality, like, how all of it lands.
Because like with Gabe, I feel like it's like representing something real. You know, once you get through that whole arc, you're like, well, kids deal with that, and that might be really important to see yourself on the page there, you know? So anyway, that's my little tangent thought on like what Polyphemus is representing here, even if he is this like magical monster creature, you know, kind of being.
Yeah. And no, I agree with that. And I think like with Grover, particularly in this instance, there's also all this like gender stuff happening in here too. And like, and so the ripping off of the dress feels also like there's that horrid layer to it of like, haha, I've caught you, you've been, you know, like something else this whole time.
I think there's multiple layers. There's like the fact that Polyphemus feels okay doing that to someone he thinks is female.
Right.
There's the I've caught you cross-dressing, essentially.
Haha.
And now I'm mad at you and I'm going to eat you. That's a thing. And then there's also like, would an author write this scene if the person wearing the dress was female? Right. I don't know. Yeah. And now I'm back to overthinking whether I should have said was or were female. So tell me in the comments. So I think it is multi-layered here. And yes, we will talk more, I think, about some of the gender stuff that comes up. But it is an icky feeling chapter, I will say.
Yes. Yeah.
But Grover comes in. Grover, let me just say this, okay? Yeah. The resourcefulness of talking his way out of stuff from the beginning to the end of this book is incredible and on point. And while I want Annabeth to like be by my side in any quest, if I need to have a situation where someone like talks our way out of it and represents just like, or presents an option that the antagonist with us would like go for, I'm gonna want Grover there. Like, for totally. Sure.
I also think this is such a, like, subtly, I feel like this book is beginning to set up, like, the seeds of Grover's confidence and the abilities that he has and the way that he's able to do things once those seeds have been planted and they start to grow. Because, like, Lightning Thief, he's like anxious Grover. Yes. Almost 24/7. A sprinkle of like therapist Grover here and there.
But we had a few different. We had Hungry Grover. We had various Grovers.
Like, he is just like anxious and filled with self-doubt. And I think like, but we ended it with him having this real determination of, I will find Pan. I will go on this quest alone to find Pan. And I think, you know, it, I always forget the precise wording of this definition of confidence that I heard in a workshop one time that I really liked, but it essentially was like, confidence is actually experience. It's doing something and experiencing that you're able to do it, you know, or that you're able to like figure your way through it, not even necessarily doing it perfectly, but that like you made it through that experience, you know? And so therefore like confidence is built through experiences. And like I think Grover being able to go out on his own and like tackle everything that was thrown in his way and think on the fly and come up with these solutions that help save his life and extend his like you know, his time frame to be able to like get help from other people, I think is like we're getting that in the background. Like Grover is, you know, he's so not heavily featured in this book outside of just like dreams, but I think we're getting that. And the fact that like he immediately, after he's revealed as being a satyr and not a Cyclops lady, he immediately comes up with this idea of, oh no, but you don't eat me raw, you'll get E. coli and botulism and all these terrible things. Like, I'll be so much better grilled with a mango chutney. You could go get some mangoes right there. Don't like go to the woods. I'll just wait right here while you go get your mangoes in the woods. Like, it is such a great on the fly in the moment, like again, solution to just be like, I just need more time. Totally. I need more time and I need to not die right now.
He's so resourceful. And I also think the dynamic with Percy, the other thing that can happen sometimes is like someone can really shine when they are given the space to. And you even see that old dynamic popping up where Percy like wants to go. Like he is rearing to go in and do something. And Annabeth is the one holding him back, like kind of back to the bulls. And he's like able when she pulls him back to be like, yeah, okay, like I couldn't really do very much right now against what's happening and I'd probably get captured too. But his first instinct is like to go down there, and I'm sure like you said earlier, his feelings about losing Tyson are mixed in with that. But I also think this old dynamic of like Grover's in trouble, he needs help kind of thing can come up. And so I think this is also an example of when someone has the freedom and space to see like, well, what do you do in that situation, instead of always rushing to protect them first. That they can like surprise you with what they're capable of. Like he was always capable of this or kind of thing, you know. And yes, he probably has gained confidence through experience, but some of it is when push comes to shove, what do you do? And he's like excelling in that reaction space. So it's kind of interesting to see that old dynamic come up and then watch it shift here, and we'll see if like Percy can sort of learn from that moving forward.
This a parallel that it made me think of, which isn't like a super great fully accurate parallel, but it made me think a lot about how with parenting, like I'm not a parent, but oftentimes I hear the advice of like, you have to let your kids make mistakes. Like you have to let them try something and fail at it and learn from it. You can't save them from any hurt or disappointment or anything like that all the time, because then they'll never be able to like develop their own sense of like
reactions to
it. And like what would I want to do in this situation, how to handle it, and how would I problem solve, and how would I like think on the fly. Not in a way of like saying that like Percy is treating Grover like his child, but just that type of like, I must save you,
but
like
or that parents shouldn't save, like help their children if they're in mortal peril. But I think you're talking more about like smaller, you know, issues of problem solving. The other thing that I know is, there's like research on, is that parents themselves should model making mistakes and being able to tolerate that and doing their own problem solving, and that can be really invaluable for building that kind of like resilience and adaptability in children, and also for warding off perfectionism, which is very important and could be a super tangent. So I'm not going to go down that road, though I could, because we still have, you know, people about to be boiling and getting eaten raw. But Grover is doing, as we're saying, this super quick thinking on his hooves. And Clarice is just, again,
she's raring to go.
Not helping. Not necessarily hurting anymore, but not helping, and is just her normal intensity. And Polyphemus is kind of like, oh, okay, grilled satyr with mango chutney, and then is looking at Clarice like, wait, are you a satyr too? Like, has everything been a lie? he does mention, I don't know if we said this, but he does mention that he can't see as well ever since his eye was poked out, which is kind of important because that's part of the story that we're going to reference later with the nobody. And so Clarice is just like insulting Polyphemus, which is always, great to do to your captor. Helps them help you. And then she says, I'm a girl, the daughter of Ares, because of course. Now untie me so I can rip your arms off. Which, again, like, Grover's being much more persuasive, like, successfully persuasive here, I will say, of the two of them. Comparing their strategies.
What's the ethos, pathos, like, for, like, argument?
Right. Like, I don't think Clarice is doing any of them.
No, Clarice isn't doing any of them at all. She's like, screw that.
Help me hurt you. That's what she's saying. That's not gonna go so well.
Help me fight you. I want to fight you. Help me fight you right now.
Exactly. Let me at you.
Yeah.
And Polyphemus is like, I just like this exchange. Rip my arms off, like kind of also mulling that over.
Right.
And stuff them down your throat, says Clarice. And he's like, you got spunk. Which is just such a... It was the one line that struck me as not very Polyphemus-y.
Yeah.
Because he's usually so like, this is happening. Now this is happening.
Right.
Like, it's very sort of like A, B.
He's like narrating.
This is like analyzing.
Right.
And it just is like a new tone to it, for Polyphemus that I don't think we've really seen in him before.
Yeah.
And he says that he needs to graze the sheep and the wedding will be postponed until tonight. So we do get yet another postponement. So Grover is successful in that. And that they will eat Seder for the main course. If you've been tracking so far, if he's not going to marry Grover, but he's still going to have a wedding, then what is going to happen? And he looks at Clarice and she's freaking out, which is super valid. And I think we basically went to just say, like,
she's
no
a child.
to child brides.
She's a child. He is like, what, 2,000 plus years old? She's a child.
Yeah. For the sake of simplicity, we have an adult and a child. And this is not okay. No. And again, it just sort of adds to, like, the icky layers of this chapter.
Yes.
That I'm just like, did we need this? Do we need this? I don't know that we need this, So anyway, no to child brides feels obvious, but let's just
say that
as we need to sometimes.
To the point that you said earlier about Polyphemus kind of representing like all violence. He just like is all representing all types of violence.
Yeah.
In like a very short span of time.
Yeah. It's like I can like feel it in my chest. It's like an overwhelming amount of like icky violence that's happening in this chapter. Yeah. So if you feel that when you read this, or you're feeling that as we're talking about it, that is valid and okay, because we should, because it's not okay what they're doing. So we're not just gonna get to like dangle over the boiling water while we wait for Polyphemus to let the sheep graze. And I suppose in that case, right, the different sheep are the ones that like go in and out of the cave, which aren't hippos.
Okay. So we do get that the description is a mixed flock of goats and sheep, smaller than the man-eaters. But we don't know how much smaller. So they could still be like larger than average. They're just not hippo-sized.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be that surprising if the herd he's tending to is like more ratio weighted to like,
especially like I could imagine maybe like, I don't know, but does like the golden fleece also make like the animals like get like if everything is like made bigger and vibrant?
That's a thought.
Like, is that maybe why like the sheep and bigger? Everything? Yeah. Like,
I mean, I'm thinking the hippo sheep might just be a special type of sheep that are piranha sheep. Right. That's really not normal to be deer.
And they're like the protectors cleared of the golden fleece.
They're like they're like that monster that, so that feels like a special magical separate thing, I think. Yeah. But I do feel like I like your theory that these other sheep that are smaller might still be a little bit larger than a normal sheep, partly because they're getting all of this magical nature growth energy at them. I like that.
I have a merch pitch. So in the style of everything's bigger in Texas, everything's bigger because of the Golden Fleece.
Because of the Golden Fleece. I like it. Also, definitely could do something with all of the sheep names we get. So in this particular initial leaving out to pasture, we get Beltbuster, Tammany, and Lockhart. We will get more. So we are back in the situation we've been in the dreams. Every time Grover would get locked in the cave with the big boulder, and there's no way for him to get out while Polyphemus goes and does whatever things. And so now Clarice and Grover, again, inside the cave. Polyphemus is moving the boulder in front. And then we realize, and this is so interesting, because earlier in the book, we sent Tyson on a quest to get powdered donuts and didn't know how that was going to happen. And we talked about Shrek and Donkey and Fiona. And here we now send Polyphemus off on a quest to get a food. Yeah. And we find out in this moment that he does not know what mangoes are, which feels very similar to Donkey being colorblind in Shrek.
Fully. Which also the rope like bridge thing also very much reminded me of Shrek.
Totally. Oh my gosh. With like a dragon. Yeah.
Yeah. So there were like many a Shrek parallel. It is funny to think about like a Cyclops living in, obviously like originating from like the Mediterranean, but now like living in essentially the Caribbean and being like, what are mangoes? And I'm like, the best fruit. That's what mangoes are.
That's what mangoes
and you're in the prime place to get like the best mangoes.
That is really funny. Yeah.
But the description of like how easily he's able to roll the boulder in front of the doorway, Percy describes it as easily as he would close a refrigerator door. I really like those descriptions as those reminders of like the scale and the power, you know, like difference here, because I think it's just helpful for me as a reader to be I
just do want to go back to that moment where you pointed out that Polyphemus is only being described as 15 feet tall, and both of us really imagined him taller than that. So
a lot taller than
that. Like the scale stuff is so interesting. We've climbed 200 feet of rock, which is double what Percy fell from Skyla earlier in the explosion. And then we have
they
a
couldn't
15-foot tall
Skyla.
Cyclops. No.
Skyla was so high up in that 100 feet that they couldn't even like see Skyla until Percy was like pulled up
there
and got a closer view.
I can't remember if there was like a fog, but yes, you couldn't see Skyla. So it's just all of the scale of everything is just really interesting to take in. And
I agree.
I do just imagine him as taller than 15 feet, but I agree that whether you are 5'9" or shorter, a boulder that could be moved by a 15-foot person would be harder to move.
Yeah.
For our and I'm never letting that go, just in case anybody didn't realize that. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to the Lightning Thief and Krusty's chapter.
And there's a whole rant about how
it's just what it says. It's just what the book says, okay? It's just what it says. All right.
Oh man. And so Polyphemus leaves off to discover what mangoes are.
Yes. I guess. Does this look like a mango? How do you do that if you don't know what they are? Right.
Also, how do you know what a mango chutney is?
I know. Would this be good in chutney? What is chutney?
What is a chutney? Yeah. He's got a lot of questions.
You know what would be fun is if, like, because of this whole ordeal, Polyphemus, like, ends up becoming, like, a master chef.
Yeah.
Because this sets him on a whole exploration of, like, what cooking is.
Yeah.
And then
he just, like, goes on a whole quest to discover chutney. He's like, what is chutney?
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, I think I have a talent for this.
Yeah. And so Annabeth and Percy try for what seemed like hours to get the boulder to move, to yell into it, to tap on it, try to signal to Grover, like, we're here, but they can't tell if Grover can tell that they're trying to get the boulder out of the way, and they're making not even a millimeter of headway.
No progress.
With this boulder. Which I do have to say, I was getting a little bit of like, they're not dead inside the boulder, but we're making all the like fun kind of Jesus comparisons, and I did.
Sure.
There's a boulder that must be rolled away.
True.
For people to leave.
True. After a certain amount of time.
Yep. And Percy kind of has this moment where he's thinking through the reality of basically like, even if him and Annabeth manage to take down Polyphemus, that won't help because Grover and Clarice are still inside and they cannot get that boulder to move, and the only way to open it is if Polyphemus does it, because that's it. Even like, and Percy gets frustrated and he like stabs Riptide against the boulder, which I was like, the fact that he doesn't like injure himself in some kind of way, like in the ricochet or anything from doing that.
You would think so, yeah.
It was surprising to me. And Annabeth and Percy are then just a little bit like despondent, feeling stuck, like they don't really know what to do. They're watching. They can see Polyphemus off in the distance as he's like tending to his flocks. And we learn that he has divided the regular animals from the man-eating sheep, putting each group on either side of the huge crevice that divided the island. And the only way across is this rope bridge. And the planks were much too far apart for sheep hooves, so the sheep can't cross that bridge themselves. And we also learned that Polyphemus cannot be eaten by the piranha sheep because they watch him go and visit them on the other side, and the sheep kind of don't seem to like care. He feeds them and they just like eat whatever meat was in the basket and leave him alone. And this is where we get that feeling that Percy has a moment of, and he's wondering if it's like still the remnants of having been turned into a guinea pig, but he's like, I don't know, maybe it's time I become vegetarian too, like Grover.
Right. Yeah, which is also fair. Like, I think if you were turned into an animal that didn't eat meat, and then, you might have some more empathy for that experience.
Totally, yeah. And this is when Annabeth decides that they'll have to use some method of trickery. Force is not going to be the way in yet. And Percy's kind of relying on Annabeth to really be the strategist here, because he's like, 100%. I got nothing, what do you got? And she's like, haven't totally figured it out
Working
yet.
on it. Yep.
But she does, we get the beginnings, we get the fun classic, like, she's got the beginning of a plan before like the scene cuts, and we get to the plan in motion, which always love. Because this portion ends on her being like, I could get inside invisibly, and Percy's like, well, what about me? And Annabeth is like, how much do you like sheep? And then we smash cut.
Yeah, such a good transition. We never really get to hear the answer either, and I don't think that it's more of a rhetorical question.
Yeah. And I just
like, this is happening.
I love not knowing a plan and being cut directly to the plan is in motion.
Same.
Like, I don't need the exposition. We set up the plan and then we see the plan act out. Like, no, just take me to it.
The plan.
Just do the plan. I'll follow along. I'm here for the ride. Show me the plan in motion.
Which begins with Annabeth saying, just don't let go. Which is so great, because it just immediately tells us a big thing of what's happening. Such a great line to start with. And specifically, Annabeth is saying this standing invisibly off to Percy's right. Yeah. And he's like, that was easy for her to say, because he is hanging upside down from the belly of a sheep.
Which, I have some fun. I don't know if it's the best place to do it now. And I think maybe I do want to take a moment and break down this whole nobody because situation and all of that, because in looking it up, there's like Annabeth basically kind of paralleled all of what Odysseus did. Yes,
totally.
So
tell us Odysseus. Yeah.
Do my little Wikipedia breakdown real quick.
Let's do it. Break it down.
Before we then dive into what Annabeth did. So the Polyphemus, the referencing to his eye having already been stabbed is because of Odysseus. So in his journey home from the Trojan War, him and some of his men end up in Polyphemus's cave, and Polyphemus starts like two at a time, like slowly eating them. Like he doesn't just kind of take them all out at once. It's like a little bit of it at a time. And is not, because in a lot of those and I realize it happens a lot with Odysseus, all the references to like how to be a like the hosting etiquette rules, you know,
yes.
like in Greek mythology of like your duties important. At a host, and that Polyphemus is not fulfilling his like duties as a host because he's eating, you know, the people who arrived at his cave.
If you want to be, you know, pedantic, that's fine.
Yeah. But Odysseus kind of devises a plan, and he gets Polyphemus drunk on undiluted wine that he has on him, and he promises Polyphemus a guest gift. That's where the whole like being a guest and host thing like comes into play, and the guest gift and the question that Odysseus answers is his name, and he tells Polyphemus it's nobody. And by the time Polyphemus has fallen asleep, drunk, that's when Odysseus takes the wooden stake that he'd hardened in the fire earlier, returns it to the fire till it's glowing hot, and drives it into Polyphemus's eye. And when Polyphemus shouts for help from there are like other like giants, like other cyclopses like around, he's shouting that nobody has hurt him. So none of the other cyclopses that are around like come to help, because they just think like they think he's being afflicted by divine power, and recommended prayer is the answer, is what Wikipedia says. Okay. But Odysseus escapes in the way that Percy enters the cave. He escapes the cave by like Odysseus and his men that are still alive tie themselves to the underside of the sheep to escape the island. Help aided by the fact that Odysseus has like messed with the vision, so the Cyclops isn't able to like see fully clearly. Totally. So anyways, I had forgotten about the piece of Odysseus and his men tying themselves to the sheep to exit, and I just felt like it was really fun that in this moment, like, Annabeth becomes nobody again, which we'll get to, like, because she knows that that'll make Polyphemus really angry, but she kind of does the inverse of like, oh, okay, they snuck out with the sheep, I'm gonna sneak you in.
We'll go in
with the sheep.
Yeah, totally. It's very clever, and it's good that Annabeth reads a lot.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases. So as you said, Percy is underneath the belly of a sheep, but not tied, as Odysseus was.
Which, again, just makes me think these have to be, like, bigger than normal. Like, if the reference is smaller than a hippo-sized sheep, this is my 5'9" that I can't let go. I'm like, I think these sheep have to
I
be
agree. I think they do. The way it's described as smaller than the hippo size, if they were just like regular sheep, I think the book would just say they were the size of regular sheep. I think smaller than a hippo just means not quite that big, but still larger than your average sheep you would normally think of. Agreed. Percy describes the smell as, not being great. No. He says, imagine a winter sweater that's been dragged through the mud and left in the laundry hamper for a week. Not great.
No.
And he also explains that he's basically twirled the stuff around his hands, the wool, and he feels like a wallaby, which is kind of cute, like against the sheep's chest. But he's trying to keep the wool out of his mouth and nose, and he does say that even the smallest sheep were big enough to support his weight. So I do think these are larger than normal size sheep. Yeah.
And they must not have like crazy nerve endings on their underbellies or something to like, just to not be bugged. I'm like, someone pulls on, I don't have very much hair now, but when I had long hair, someone pulled on my hair. That was gonna hurt. Someone was
yes, and I do think that different animals might have different endings related to their fur or hair, and it is more common sometimes in mammals to have like babies that hold on to their parents like and cling in that way. So if they are larger sheep, I'm hoping that this sheep isn't having a terrible time. from the description and Percy's perspective, it seems like the sheep is okay.
Yeah. Yes.
And so Polyphemus is bringing his flock back toward the cave, and I just think it's very impressive that Percy can hang on like this, given that he just free climbed a 200-foot cliff not very long ago. I think that is kind of wild.
Yeah.
And Annabeth is like, okay, let's go. Like, I'll be close by. Don't worry. And Percy makes a silent promise to the god that if they survive this, he'd tell Annabeth that she was a genius. And and also realizes that the gods would make him do it because it's a promise to the gods, which is just such a funny thing to have to, like, keep in mind in this world.
Yeah.
You know? And so then we get some more sheep names. I'm just, like, always interested in namings of things.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we have Hassenpfeffer.
Right.
With a P in it, right in the middle. Super fun. We get Einstein, which is like, what? Why?
Sure.
Wow.
Why
and
not?
then we get Widget, which we seem to spend a lot of time with Widget.
Well, because we're writing Widget, I believe.
Yes, we are writing Widget. And so, as the one note that we do get about the sheep's, like, comfortability with Percy being there is that as they are, like, going up the hill, Percy does hold onto the wool more tightly, and then Widget is, like, grumbling about it. So, like, that's fair. Yeah, totally fair. So then Polyphemus decides to fat shame Widget is the best way I can say this. And if you haven't been here before, we are a positive fat liberation podcast. And no, not opposed to fat being used as a neutral descriptor or positive descriptor of a person. Opposed to it being thrown around as an insult. Yes. That's what happens here. Moving on. The idea is that, like, Percy's weight is added to the sheep's weight. And so the sheep is just, like, bigger or heavier than Polyphemus is used to. And promises to eat Widget for breakfast soon. Because, you know, violence is his thing. And so Percy's in the cave, which, first of all, he's had so many dreams of Grover in this cave that, like, to intentionally on purpose put himself in the cave, like, he has a lot of trust in Annabeth's plan. Because this is he knows how perilous this is. And he sees the last of the sheep coming in, and he's really hoping that she does something before the boulder closes. And then he hears from outside Annabeth shouting, "Hello, ugly," and Polyphemus says, "Who said that?" And Annabeth says the famous, "Nobody." And he is so angry. He is red with rage. And he says, "Nobody, I remember you." And Annabeth says, "You're too stupid to remember anybody, much less nobody." And so it's basically just an egging on. It's kind of the strategy. Like, it's very much a distraction strategy. It's not like she's not waiting with the pike or doing the wine. It's really like, let's keep him distracted so Percy can help Clarice and Grover.
And I think smartly get him to do what he does next, which is get so angry because she yells this, like, as he's about to close the door. And so then the nearest boulder to him is his front door, which he's just so immediately enraged because it's such a, like, nerve for him that she hits, that he just throws the boulder, not even thinking about the fact that that's the front door that's going to keep Clarice, Grover, like, everything else inside.
Yes. Which I suppose is the downside to using, you know, that kind of building material that's not fastened. So then you might accidentally use that as a weapon. Because again, violence. Just all of it.
Yeah.
So yes, 100%. Very importantly, the boulder that normally closes is not just like he's distracted to not close it. It's that he, like, throws it far away. Fortunately, Annabeth does get out of the way and just taunts him about not throwing any better either, and about being stupid. That's kind of her whole deal.
Yeah.
You can't find me. You can't kill nobody. Kind of still doing the play on words. And, you know, she's using an established trick, essentially. It sounds like in Odysseus's instance, he was also setting it up so that what the Cyclops says will make sure that nobody comes to help him. But in this case, it's much more of like a egging on, making angry, making him kind of make mistakes like he's doing right now.
Yeah, because she's betting correctly on the fact that Polyphemus is still going to be deeply upset and enraged and like want to seek violent revenge on Nobody, the person named Nobody, because of I mean, yeah, get stabbed in the eye with the
like he
torch on fire.
Lost a lot of his vision. It was very painful. There's a lot of ramifications of what Odysseus did for Polyphemus. So yeah, I think it makes sense that it would make him really mad. And then here's where we get another sort of really unnecessary male-female situation, gender thing, where Percy, it's more Percy's internal thoughts, where he's like, man, he didn't even think that like the voice is female and Odysseus was male, but he wanted to marry Grover, so I guess he doesn't know too much about that. And I was just like, oh, I'm tired. Like, what? Yeah. Like, it's just, there's just moments where it's like, it's so unnecessary to put something like this in here. And also, like, it's so much like the limitations of when you're writing what you're not aware of, what you don't know, gets in your book, you know? And especially when you're trying to have a character who thinks in jokes. Jokes are tricky because oftentimes they need to be at someone's expense, and that doesn't always age well. Yeah, particularly when it's a joke that's more of a punching down rather than a punching up. Yep. I think a punching up I don't know of a punching up joke that hasn't still rung true. Right. The punching down jokes are the ones that do not age. Because they shouldn't have been said in the first place, because they were punching down. They were never appropriate. That's a great way to say that. So, yeah. This is another, you know, when we bring these moments up, I do also like to talk about the fact that this is another real big like area of growth in Rick Riordan's writing, and we'll get to that. And he has gender fluid characters and a much more different representation of gender in future books, and always here for growth and learning. Yes, all of us have much to do in so many areas, and so always here for that, and like the openness to that and the ability to do that. And I think that's what we should be celebrating in authors, because like you said, a lot of us don't know what we don't know. We can try, you know, and do our best, but what matters is we learn and we grow. So we start out super binary in these books, and that will change eventually, but for now, just a moment of like, okay, didn't love that. I think that, honestly, a real quick side note, because we've talked a lot about like interviews, and like, you know, we just mentioned that like, of course, Rick Riordan is like a you know, top of the list, but I think that's one of the things that I would be most curious to ask him is like just what that journey was for him, because he has grown a lot in representation in so many different ways, and I am just so curious to know like how he did that in terms of like that question. What brought awareness to him? How did he go about learning, you know, the decision to then write with other authors, and just all of that, because I think it's like I am curious to learn, and I also think if I haven't deep dived all his interviews, so I don't know if maybe he's already spoken about this and I've missed it. Yeah. But like I also feel like there's a lot to learn from that, and like just it's a great example that other writers and authors can follow, because I think unfortunately we have a lot of examples of authors who don't learn and who actually like double, triple, quadruple down on some pretty terrible things. Worse and worse. Yes, and so the opposite of actually like growing and writing more representative characters and more diverse and inclusive stories. Well, and like we're obviously alluding to J.K. Rowling partly here, and with that it's like specifically on gender too. It's like such a clear example of two authors that like very, very much diverged in their approaches to learning and growth. I think that would be so valuable for both people who are interested in writing, like for authors, and people interested in like people who read books.
Yeah.
But also like for the communities that are affected by these changes.
Yeah.
Like to be able to like experience someone. We talked a little bit in a recent episode about like accountability and growth, and I think it would just be so cool to like hear of someone's journey going through that. I think we don't get that as often as we get like either a focus on people who aren't willing to grow or a praise of where someone's already at. But we don't really get like, how does one get there and what does that look like and what was that like for you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I think that would be great, and I'd love that interview. So, you know, anytime. We're here, we're ready. But so then Percy has had this whole journey with Widget, I feel. Yes. They've grown very close. Yes. In many ways, physically, obviously, but also emotionally. Because he falls off of Widget and, you know, pats Widget on the head.
Yeah. So Percy's had a lot of, like, animal-specific experiences this book, and, like, connections, like, being turned into the guinea pig, forming this connection with Widget. Like, he really...
I think it's not an accident that that's happening in the book. That's sort of all about nature, you know, about finding Pan leading to the fleece, and the tree is poisoned, and, you know, it is a very nature-focused book. Yeah. And, like, in so many ways, we are setting up the Pan journey later, which I think is so fun and interesting. Yeah. So, the thing that I really like is this feels like such a grounded experience Percy has here, where he has been dreaming about this cave for a really long time. So, you would think that he's then, like, gets off and Grover's right there, right? Right. It is so cool, because I think this would be true, that, like, he gets out and he's like, I don't know where I am, really. Yeah. I've never actually been through this cave. I've seen parts of this cave, but I've never been through this cave in this way. And so it feels like a maze to him. And I just think that's really grounded. Like, it feels genuine about what would happen. But also we get to, like, learn that there are quarters littered with bones, rooms full of sheepskin rugs, a life-size cement sheep that I recognize as the work of Medusa.
Which I find that I love the like little Easter egg callback to Medusa. It's very fun, but also it feels, I'm like, okay, he's got all this sheep memorabilia, but I'm like, this means that he decided to take live sheep and instead of eating them, commemorate them as stone statues.
Totally.
It just feels really funny.
The man loves sheep. The man loves sheep. We even have collections of sheep t-shirts, also a subscription box item. Because again, imagine it, but it's like all their cute names, you know? Yeah. And a little, I'm ready for that. Large little tubs sheep plushies. Little sheep plushies. Well, when you squeeze them, they go back.
They go, I'm a piranha.
I'm a piranha. Oh, that would be even... Well, then they'd have to be big sheep plushies. Yeah. With teeth. Let us know which you'd rather see. We've got large tubs of lanolin cream, which I'm realizing I didn't look that up, but I'm assuming it has something to do with sheep. And woolly coats, socks, and hats with ram's horns. So there's just... I just think it's, like, cool to get a little bit of, like, description of what is going on in Polyphemus's cave. And then we finally get to the spinning room. So the room with the loom, where quick. Grover and Clarice are.
Fun fact about the cream. I just Googled it. It is a natural moisturizer derived from sheep's wool.
Okay, I was like, it has to link back to sheep, either sheep care or a sheep product. So it really is primarily either sheep-based products, like from a sheep or about a sheep, is really what we're experiencing here. And in the spinning room with the loom, Grover is trying to cut Clarice's bonds with a pair of safety scissors. Now, tell me, where are these safety scissors from and why are they here? Human-sized, as far as I can tell, safety scissors, like from a classroom where the guinea pigs are.
Look, I can't tell you.
Okay, I don't think this needs a whole proper theory, but I'm just like, where are the safety scissors from?
Maybe, like, Grover needed them as part of, like, like making the wedding like veil or
So
something,
they like
you know?
ordered them online to come to the island.
Amazon. The Amazonians
The
deliver
Amazonians deliver. Okay, maybe Grover special requested safety scissors, and now he's really wishing he had special requested.
Yeah.
You know, bigger scissors.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought it's a moment where like the image is funny, but then you're like, how?
Right.
Why? I just need to
yeah.
know why. How did
this
these
is
get here?
this is one of those classic things where like I'm reading this in any other day, not for a podcast breakdown. I'm like, oh, safety scissors and Greece dialogue, and I'm flying through it. But when we're having to break down a chapter for a podcast, it's safety scissors.
Safety scissors? How does that happen? Maybe there's a world where like of Clarice's equivalent of Percy's yellow duffel bags, the one item that remains with her is a pair of safety scissors.
True.
I don't know.
Another possibility, yeah.
There could be options, but apparently the rope is like iron, and it's not going to happen. He's been working on it for hours, says Clarice, and then they finally see Percy. And Clarice's first line is, Percy, you're supposed to be blown up, which is just like...
She thought Percy died.
Oh.
She thought R.I.P. Percy.
Valid logical thought process, given that Percy gets taken and then the ship blows up. But what a way to greet someone. What a way to be greeted by someone. I just think that's a...
Not like, thank God you're alive, or I can't believe you're not dead, but you're supposed to be.
You're supposed to be dead. So that's just part of their really special relationship that they've built up until this point.
Right.
And Percy says, good to see you too. And then Grover's just so psyched. And Grover, remember, is not the one tied up. So he's just like bleeding, tackling Percy with a goat hug. Like in the midst of all of this wildness and safety scissors questions, like this is a reuniting of best friends.
Yes.
So we do get a moment of reuniting of best friends. And he's like, you heard me, you came. And then Percy's like, yeah, buddy, of course I came. And adorable, A. B, I think this answers our question of earlier when Grover seems to be looking right at Percy in one of the vision dream things that he has. And we were like, can Grover see Percy? And this kind of makes me think he couldn't.
I know. I thought so too, which I found a bit confusing. So I was like, then how is he like looking straight at Percy? But also like
be the
they
feeling,
communicated in previous ones.
I know. That's true.
So this was a little, and maybe this is more an indication of like, you know, Grover didn't know that Percy was like on the quest on the way.
Sure.
So maybe this was more of just a like Grover being like, oh my God, okay, thank God you did come for me. Right. Like, because
I could also imagine though being like captured for that long, you could be like, am I imagining this? Like you could ask yourself like, am I just imagining that my best friend is telling me these things because I need to hear them and I am terrified and captured? Like, am I hallucinating this or did this really happen? So maybe partly this is just Grover being like, okay, that was real. Like I didn't just imagine that.
Yeah, because there was, I'm in one of the earlier ones on, Grover does have a moment of being like, Percy, oh thank God I got through to you. You know, like Grover does recognize that Percy is there, and that essentially like transmission is going through the empathy link. So I think I could totally see it as a combination of like he's been in the cave for such a long time, and also like I don't think Percy ever gave him a like, we're on the way.
Right. Yeah.
Wait for us.
It was more
ETA. A couple
Grover
of days.
to Percy, not Percy to Grover. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And honestly, most of Percy's updates would not have been that morale inspiring for Grover anyway, so maybe that's a good thing. Maybe. Yeah. So I love also that one of Grover's first questions is, where's Annabeth? Like, he's on it. This is like friend time.
He just like knows. He's like, if Percy's here, Annabeth somewhere.
Yep. Yeah, like he hasn't even heard that Chiron made her promise forever and all eternity on the river Styx to keep Percy safe. He just
still not letting that one go.
Oh no, no.
I'm not. You're not. As a podcast collective,
not letting that one go, because I don't think she ever gets let off the hook as far as I've read.
No, I don't think there's a way to let yourself off the hooks of an oath on the river Styx.
That is a forever and all eternity oath.
Yeah.
And this like kind of weird then sequence we have between the empathy link and that.
I just was thinking of like the alternate universe, because I had a moment of like, thank God they fall in love. And,
right?
You know, the vibe is they do want to spend forever together. Because imagine, like, the alternate universe where they just kind of, like, don't like each other.
Yeah.
And Annabeth is just like, and I'm bound to make sure that this annoying guy stays alive forever.
Stays alive, who likes getting himself in trouble.
Yeah.
And who the gods have some issues with. Yeah.
It's a good thing she wants to,
good thing.
quest with him.
It's a very good thing, yes, that they end up being together. And Percy explains that Annabeth is outside, but they need to hurry. And he slices off Clarice's ropes. And she does say thanks a bit reluctantly, not making eye contact, but she does. Percy asks if anyone else is on the lifeboat. And here Clarice looks surprised and says no, everyone else, and basically says, like, everyone else is dead as far as she's concerned. She didn't even know that they made it out. Which I will say, like, in the could Tyson have survived calculus that Percy's doing, the fact that Clarice thought no one made it out and he and Annabeth made it out does kind of be like, maybe someone else could have made it out.
Absolutely.
I think the biggest distinction is that Tyson is, in theory, like, in the engine room when this is happening, and that seems a little bit more perilous. But it also answers our question, I couldn't remember, and we might get more description of this, of if any of the ghosts survived. This makes it sound like none of the ghosts survived either, because we were talking about that too. And so Percy feels like his last hope of Tyson being alive is crushed, though. He's not thinking of that optimistically. And then he is starting to explain that they need to go help Annabeth and kind of explain the plan when they hear a huge explosion, followed by a scream, and it's Annabeth crying out in fear. And I did a lot of dun-dun-duns in the Lightning Thief, like whenever there'd be a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And honestly, this book, not so many cliffhangers as the first book.
No.
In the chapter endings, but this is one of our big dun-dun-duns.
Yes.
That we have.
Because I think this book, far more than the Lightning Thief in general, also had a lot of, like, the chapter ends, we pick immediately back up on the next one.
So much more.
And a lot of very contained, like, a monster happens, we make through it. Like, things happen. We get through it by the end of the chapter. Like, I think one of the biggest cliffhangers was Percy going off of the St. Louis Arch. I feel like one of the first real big, like, whoa, we're ending this chapter off on a huge cliffhanger. Totally. And so I think it does kind of make sense that at the point in this book where we're going to get one, it's when we're actually at, like, the big battle with, like, the thing that we have been building towards. We have arrived at that large threat and the, like, culmination of the quest.
I have a question that we should pay attention to.
Yeah.
Does Percy get thrown off of something really tall or thrown out away really far in every book?
Right, because we're now...
I can definitely think of 3 books, but I can't remember if in the next book, like, maybe when they're in the trash place with Bianca, like... Well, I just think we should pay attention, because it's kind of a funny thing where, like... I don't know if it's funny,
true.
But he gets, like... He jumps off or gets thrown off or blown off very high and far... high and or far in both books so far.
Yes. No,
I'm
totally.
Now, in retrospect.
Yeah. And because I'm even thinking, like, the only one that I'm curious about is Titan's Curse, because obviously Labyrinth is a volcano.
Yes.
And then with book 5, like, he does create the hurricane.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about that, and if there's any other...
So yeah, that's a fun thing to track.
It's just like, is that just like a thing in every book? Well, if it's not in Titan's Curse, that would be interesting, because that's like the main book that's not taking place over a summer too. Like that book already has its own oddities to it, which is interesting. I'm definitely getting I'm getting excited. I didn't start out by saying this, but I'll end by saying my final thought is, like, I was just excited to be on the island with the things.
Yes.
Like, it is always it's kind of like when you like go into the underworld, you know, for the first time. It's just exciting to be questing, even though we're on our unofficial quest. Like, it is fun.
Yes, absolutely. And also, like, it's exciting. I was getting excited. Like, we're now in the back, like, third slash quarter, you know, essentially, like,
I think it
of
went
the
by so
book.
fast on this one.
I know, but I was just getting so excited for, like, reaching the end of this book, and then just, getting to books like Titan's Curse and, like,
I
everything
know.
that awaits. Like, I'm just so excited to, like, get into all of that, and I feel like, Lightning Thief sets up the world, Sea of Monsters, I feel like then with the ending really like kind of
Changes the
sets everything
game.
else off, you know?
Yep,
And we just get into some cool
we
things
do.
like in all the
We
next
really
books
do.
that have so many like ramifications down the line. Like we
Yep.
meet some incredibly important people and characters and stuff, and I'm just really excited for all
Well,
of it.
and yeah, we'll get a different. It's kind of. I was just sort of processing that each of Percy's friends gets a turn being kind of kidnapped far away in a place they can't get out of in 2
True.
and 3, which is
Good
interesting.
point. Yeah.
But you know, we're getting the Tyson fake out here, but
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna get Bianca. Like we're really, I think this book we've talked about how it has darker themes. We've talked about how
Yeah.
it really turns Percy's sense of heroism on its head, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is really good to do, given that we established, yeah, a sense of confidence through experience in book one. So, yeah, I'm getting really excited to be able to keep moving through in such a detailed way that when we step out, the bigger picture just gets so much more. I feel like we're doing like a big coloring page,
Mm-hmm.
like a gigantic coloring page full of
Yeah.
numbers, and we're just getting so much more of a rich picture than we ever have before, and we can start seeing some of those patterns and like things that we
Mm-hmm.
haven't noticed in the past. So
Totally.
I'm excited. This is one of the ones where I wanted to keep reading. So
Oh,
I
yes.
can't wait for the next one.
Yeah.
Do you have any other final thoughts or reflections?
Um, yeah, I just think going off of like what you just said, I think this book really like it raises the stakes like between like the reveal of the Princess Andromeda and
Hmm.
campers are switching sides and starting to get an inkling of Kronos's plan and the sarcophagus and he's rising again and like this I feel like is really like the Lightning Thief introduces us to there's a greater threat. I think the Sea of
Yeah,
Monsters solidifies it and really starts to solidify the stakes. I think especially because Camp Half-Blood is like targeted straight out the gate. And so I think it really
for
sets
sure.
those stakes of like, you know, not even Camp Half-Blood is reliably permanently safe
Yes.
until this larger threat is defeated and I think it's I really like that we get those like already being planted in this book, especially because it gives us time to like follow them and especially like in particular really follow Luke's arc and
Yes.
everything that he goes through and I think getting that so early in this 5 book series is so important, you know, because it
And so
makes it so
early
much
in
more
this
impactful.
book. Yeah, it happened so early in this book. Like we were surprised. We
Yeah.
you know how quickly it
Yes.
came up, but then we don't see him again like for so
Right.
long. So I do think it's important to plant those bigger stakes so early so that the layers, you know, we were kind of following the personal and then the world stakes in the last book. The layers here are so big. Like there's the Kronos and Luke plan layer. There's Grover and the empathy link layer. There's Camp being under threat and the trees poisoned the Golden Fleece layer.
Yeah.
And I do think that having some of those pieces there, you can take your pick, but it's all very important. And having that like sense of importance and urgency is just very compelling when you're reading a story.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, then I just can't wait for next week when we read Sea of Monsters, Chapter 15 Nobody Gets the Fleece. Bye.
Bye.